In one of my previous videos, we went over absurdly embarrassing NHL records, inspired by who else but a nice little 18-game losing streak. And well, I'm really glad you liked it, because there are so many confusing, if not outright ludicrous, NHL records. And to put confusing records into perspective, let's start with Nathan Horton, as he has what is easily one of the most confusing records in NHL history. And you can help me break a channel record by pressing subscribe for some more awesome hockey content. On March 10th, 2014, Nathan Horton, this guy, would score the first goal of the game. Nice. Good job. Except, just over 6 minutes into the game, Rich Peverley would collapse on the bench and go into cardiac arrest. A horrific situation. And before we move on, Rich Peverley would be okay. However, this would also sadly lead to his retirement. The guy technically died on the bench and was revived. Crazy. And I'm just glad that this happened within arm's reach of medical professionals, because after this horrible event, the game would be cancelled. But, as you recall, Nathan Horton scored a goal. Flash forward to April 8th. In a game versus the Coyotes, Horton would leave the game after playing 5 minutes because of a horrendous back injury. In fact, this was also Nathan Horton's last game in the NHL. But the thing is, the very next day, Columbus and Dallas were playing their makeup game from the Peverley incident. And because Nathan Horton scored in the first game, Nathan Horton is the only player in NHL history to score a goal in a game he never played in. Because of the makeup, Nathan Horton would be officially rewarded a goal in the stat sheet. But what's so odd, this is also the game that Nathan Horton would retire. Meaning, Nathan Horton's final goal in our game in the NHL was in a game he never even stepped a foot in. Absolute chaos. Fight, goal, assist. 3 completely separate stats. But when you combine them, you get something special. Gordie Howe hat-trick. Besides an actual hat-trick, the Gordie Howe hat-trick is easily one of the most famous stat lines in NHL history. Triple-double? No way. Gordie Howe hat-trick. Except, what if I were to tell you that even though Gordie Howe played nearly 1,800 games in the NHL and over 400 more games in the WHA, my man, the dude who literally invented this stat, I mean, it's literally named after him, had two Gordie Howe hat-tricks in his entire 2,000 plus game tenure. Absurd, as Rick Tocchet and Brendan Shanahan are the actual record holders, both having 18 in their careers, or 16 more than the creator himself, Gordie Howe. Back in 2012, the Pittsburgh Penguins would snipe Matt Murray in the 3rd round of the draft. And 3 years later, Matt Murray would arrive to the NHL. But he didn't just make an appearance, because in a Jordan Binnington fashion, Murray would show up in the regular season and post a fantastic 9-2-1 record and a .930 save percentage, on top of being the backbone to the Penguins Cup win in his rookie season. Except, Murray was credited with 13 games. You need to either be over the age of 26 or play at least 25 games to not be considered a rookie. Meaning, Murray was still a rookie in his 2nd season. And well, he would do it again. A dominant regular season and a fantastic playoffs, topped off by another Stanley Cup. But here's the thing, that's 2 cups. Matt Murray as a rookie goaltender is officially credited with 2 Stanley Cups, both earned in his rookie season. Hilarious. Which also reminds me of a similar record that Ken Dryden has, that is, in his first season he would get a late call-up and play 6 games, and single-handedly carry the Montreal Canadiens to a Stanley Cup, which Ken Dryden would take home the Conn Smythe as the playoff MVP, and well, the next season he would win the Calder Trophy for the best rookie of the year, even though he was a Conn Smythe winner and a Stanley Cup champion. Marty Turco. If you're new to the game, Marty Turco was one of the most frustrating goalies to play against in NHL history. And why, you ask? Not only was he considered to have crazy hockey IQ for a goalie, but he would use that hockey IQ combined with athleticism to become one of the most dominant puck-playing goalies the game has ever seen.
Long feed from Turco to Kane. Put it into the middle, coming to change, it goes to Pete.
And back in the late 2000s, Turco was on top of his game. In fact, he was on such a tear, he was one of my main hockey memories as a kid. Because during the 2007 playoffs, Marty Turco would set an unbelievable record. That is, not only did he post a 1.3 goals against average, not only did he post a ludicrous 952 save percentage, but Turco would break the record for the most shutouts in a single playoff series, as he would shut out the Canucks 3 times. But Dallas would somehow manage to lose that series, even though their goalie didn't let in a single goal for 3 out of the 7 games. Thus, Marty Turco would not only claim the playoff series shutout record, but he did it in a series where his team played so poorly, they literally did not win a single game that Turco also let a goal in. And fun fact, this is also the same series that Roberto Luongo would post up 72 saves in a single game, as game 1 of the series went into quadruple overtime. In the world of professional sports, the minor system can be one of the toughest journeys for any professional hockey player. That is, not only do you need to absolutely work your ass off every game in the AHL, proving to management that you deserve a call-up, but when you do get called up, you also have to make a major impact in what might only be a single NHL appearance. Imagine working your entire life to become an NHL player, and the feeling these players have knowing that their first NHL game might be their last. And well, Jeremy Williams would take this to heart, because after being drafted in the 7th round, Williams would earn an AHL spot, where he would continue to progress. And guess what? He would get his chance, and he would score in his first NHL game. Yet, he would get sent down. The next season, the exact same thing would happen. Very impressive play in the minors, get called up, just to score once again in his only call-up, but he would get sent down once again. And guys, I'm not even joking, Jeremy Williams would score on his call-up game 4 years in a row, except he wouldn't even be given a single chance to be a main roster player, because even though he would set an NHL record for the most goals scored in their first appearance of a season, Williams would never even become a 4th-line player. He would retire and go off to Germany. Chris Campoli. Back in 2009 in a game versus the Columbus Blue Jackets, the game was 3-3 heading into OT. And around the 2-minute mark, Campoli would hit the post and begin to celebrate. But confusingly, nobody else was, so he stopped. And after a very short scrum, Campoli would get the puck back, but this time he would make no mistake and rip it in. Except, upon looking at the review, Campoli scored twice. The first shot, he ripped it so hard, it shot straight through the net. And somehow, miraculously, the puck would somehow shoot right back to his stick, and he would become the only player in NHL history to technically score 2 game-winning goals in a single game. And speaking of game-winning goals, back in 2012, the Penguins would shock the entire draft floor, as they would ship off Jordan Staal for what was basically Brandon Sutter in the 8th overall pick. And with that pick, the Pens would go slightly off the board and draft Derrick Pouliot, a mobile defenseman with some good offensive upside. Except, well, it didn't really work out, as Pouliot would have a tough time adjusting to the NHL and served as a 6'7" defenseman at best. But what was hands down the most confusing part of Pouliot's 200-game career is that he scored 8 goals. Now, I'm not goal shaming or anything, but considering that Pouliot had around 229 career shots, he had a horrendous shooting percentage. Which basically tells us, you can kind of make the assumption that if you have a 2% shooting percentage, most of your goals were kind of a fluke. You know, at the NHL level, if you do risk the puck on net 200 times, eventually someone will tip it and it will go in. Not efficiently, but you are bound to score. But what is absurd about those 8 goals is that Pouliot's first 6 goals in the NHL were all game winners. Meaning, with a minimum of 200 games played, Pouliot has the highest game-winning goal percentage in NHL history. Again, 8 career goals on 200 shots, which points towards those goals being more luck than skill. So the fact that his first 6 goals were all game winners, that has to be one of the biggest coincidences I have ever seen. Let's put this into perspective. Austin Matthews this season won the Maurice Richard Trophy, further reinforcing that Matthews is legit and has the potential to be one of the deadliest goal scorers of this next era. But from the now nearly 200 goals Matthews has scored in the NHL, 12 of those 200 goals were game winners, meaning 6% of Matthews' goals were the direct result of a win. So I guess the question is, Pouliot or Matthews? Who do you choose for Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals? If I were a betting man, 75% is much better than 6. Pouliot over Matthews confirmed.